Come on here and join me. Oh, you will. You will, just for one. It's a sorry thing to be drinking on your own, and I, Flossie Ray, am always up for the crack. 3 weeks ago, I waited all morning till I was burning for it. Not that I was mooning about, for I kept myself busy with the ironing. Well, I say ironing, but it was only a wee skiff over. As long as we were all smart for Sunday, that was good enough for me, for I didn't want the neighbours thinking I'd let things slip. Cleanliness is next to godliness, they believe. Well, if you listen to them, you'd think ironed underwear was an indispensable part of God's vision. One thing I would say was Alfie has always been very particular about his uniform. That very week, me and half the women in the district couldn't sleep at night because of what our menfolk were getting up to. All out in patrols and recce missions, trying to stop the smugglers. Sure, Alfie uncovered a big barrel of potsheen in a turf cart. In the morning, I was just getting ready to go out when there was a rap at the door. Very official. And oh Lord, I was thinking something bad must have happened to Alfie. But no. It was Mrs. Clark from the church choir. I invited her in. Would you like a wee cup of tea in your hand? I asked. No, thank you, she said, all snooty. I regret to inform you that you're no longer welcome as part of the church choir. I was flabbergasted. I'd been part of the choir for 20 years. And why not, Mrs. Clark? Because there are rumours that you were drinking behind the biscuit tins in Riley's for the past 3 months. If I need a wee medicinal because of the times we live in, Mrs. Clark, that is my business. And she was already out the door. Oh God, the disgrace of it. I told myself I'd stay at home from now on. But as the minutes, the hours ticked past, the thirst on me grew, and when the clock clicked 12, that was me, off like a sheepdog racing after the lambs. Into Riley's I went, and it was all quiet, but for the regulars. What'll it be, Flossie? Said Brian behind the bar. A slab of butter and a wee poke of tea, I said. You just wait in the snug, he winked, while I get it ready. And I nipped in, closing the door from prying eyes. Brian passed me a wee sherry through the hatch and glug! The fire down my thrapple, right into my belly. Oh, the relief of it. Finally, I could forget about the gunshots at night. It scared the life out of me with Alfie and the B specials roaming the land. Alfie's always said if partition doesn't last, everyone will be off to America. Next, Brian passed me a long pint of porter. There it was. Black body, tan top, just like the black and tans themselves. The devil's buttermilk, Mrs. Clark calls it. But if that's so, why does it taste like heaven? A few minutes later, Teresa joined me in the snug. Then Mags, we were starting to get rightly. We were laughing away and shh, Brian was telling us through the hatch, you're disturbing the patrons. What? Them drunken brutes, went Teresa. Sure, you'd sooner disturb the devil. It was nearly 3 o'clock when Brian shouted through, drink up, Father Michael's coming. Father Michael sometimes hides in the snug himself for a quick one. So, out the snug we hurried like the hounds of hell were after us. Teresa's hat skew whiff, the coat was hanging off me. Oh, we were some state. But we went up to the counter for our groceries, all like virtuous housewives. I opened a jar of cloves and popped one in my mouth to hide the alcohol in my breath. We were just leaving when Father Michael came up to Teresa and said, Woman, I have bad news. Your husband has been shot. Come with me now to the hospital. Nothing sobers you up like bad news. Poor Teresa. What terrible times. Mags and I were just coming home when we were passing the church hall. You could hear the singing. Choir practice. Jesus forgive me, but I couldn't resist poking my head in. Mrs. Clark, you can take a run and jump with your choir, I guldered. Sure, half the women in here get their kids to run down to Riley's for a jug of porter to swig in their back room. So who the hell are you to judge me? And she was shouting back what a disgrace I was to womanhood, and the organ player was screaming blue murder, and I was yelling my lugs off too, completely lost the run of myself. Mags had to drag me away. When I got home, the kids were playing in the garden and Alfie was in the kitchen just fresh back from work. You all right, love? I said. No, I'm not. And from the look in his eyes, I was heart scared. He was about to tell me he was the one who shot Teresa's husband. What is it, Alfie? I've just looked under the mattress. You've spent every single shilling of our immigration fund. We'll never get to America now, you bloody drunken fool! So that's me sober now. I joined the temperance movement. Not another drop shall I sup till I've scrimped and saved enough to pay for our boat. I even signed my pledge. I hereby promise, by the grace of God, to abstain from the use of all intoxicating liquors, including wine, beer and cider as a beverage, save for medicinal purposes, and from the use of tobacco in any form, and from all profanity. Sure, my drinking was only medicinal anyway. I'm off the devil's buttermilk and back to plain oil buttermilk. I'm banned from the church choir. But luckily enough, the temperance movement involves a lot of singing. And I do love a good old sing-song. Cheers the spirit. Later tonight, we're marching to Riley's to close it down and replace it with a temperance bar. All things bright and beautiful